When doing research, you'll come across a lot of information from a wide variety of different source types. How do you decide which source to use? The goal of this video is to introduce ways of thinking about sources to help you select the ones that best fit your particular needs. We're going to hear from students about how they navigate selecting sources for college work and what they think is important to consider. These students have successfully completed a number of research assignments at PCC.
My name is Aubry Ledbetter Gabbard. I've been a student here at PCC part-time for a little over a year now.
My name is Fagan, and this is the end of my second year at PCC.
My name is Jazmine Kelly. I've been with PCC for the last 2.5 years.
I think it is good to pay attention to where your information comes from, and therefore how reliable it is and what the quality is that can be expected.
What makes you credible as a writer is the company you keep with your writing.
We researched the authors and looked into what they had also written, what kind of organization they came from, and then it was important also to note what organization was funding the research. And something that we were encouraged to do is look at who is publishing. So the publisher of the material is really important, and a good way to know if something is kind of legitimate is if the publishing company comes from a known and respected university. Also, if it's a known and respected journal or publication.
I wanted to make sure that my studies were funded by groups that might have a distinct interest in the treatment of cluster headaches, but didn't have a distinct interest in how they were treated.
You want unbiased research. You know, you can have all the commentary on the world on a topic, but if it's the company itself that's paying to promote it, then you know that it's not going to be unbiased. I think that the process of peer review is important when you're looking into resources that you want to cite and research, because it indicates that the content that you're reading has already been reviewed by professionals in the field outside of the author themselves. Someone who knows the topic really well, a scholar, an academic in the field, has looked over the content and agrees that it's accurate. You know, they're kind of insurance that the material that you're reviewing is credible.
I wanted to make sure that all of my sources had been referenced in at least one other source. So for instance, all the academic articles, most of them had at least been cited in some other academic article.
I just brought up timelines as well as similar information, or did similar searches, and I made sure that the information was very similar as I could get it. So this was the fact that I was writing down.
I think that looking into a variety of sources is really beneficial going into any kind of research project, where academic sources are really valuable and ultimately definitely should be included. I think there's a lot to be said for also looking at more popular material, certainly. I mean, it's definitely more approachable, and I think that many of us, at least students, are more accustomed to even the way that popular writers write, and so it's definitely kind of more welcoming and accessible. And then you also, I think with popular material, kind of like magazines and newspapers and other sources that maybe aren't as credible necessarily but still have something to say on the topic, you get the advantage of hearing a lot of different voices going in, so you kind of hear the entirety of the conversation around, you know, any topic, whether it's refugee placement or, you know, what's going on in pop culture, any of that. So I think there's definitely value in looking at both more academic writing and also more popular works.
A news source broke all of that down for me and informed me what's interesting, what is important, and what is new. It it was easy for me to find the first study that I did for my project, which ended up leading me to PubMed. But I first found the citation, so it was easier to find in academic databases using Wikipedia.
Gale Virtual Reference did give me the working definition as well as history and background that was completely and entirely needed in this respect.
In the light of how many sources you're going to have to read, I would say be sure that you get a broad overview of both sides of the argument, legitimate aspects of both sides of the argument early on, from scholarly and maybe more popular sources, and then immediately start paring it down, because otherwise you don't have that kind of time.
I don't think I would have found the study I did without hunting through the sources, because it was a study that involved less than 300 people. It was a study that was funded by less than 4 sources. It wasn't done by a major university. So the only way I think I would have found it as someone that's not involved in that field is by being willing to do the digging, and in the process having a lot of fun.
So I think that there is this initial kind of gathering of content and gathering of sources, and then you immediately have to start chopping out what isn't crucial, what isn't really striking, what doesn't relate, maybe what you already have enough of.
We're at such a fascinating information age right now, where in a matter of 20 minutes I can find information that even 10 years ago, when I was doing research projects, would have taken me 5-6 hours. I can pull out my smartphone and I can research academic databases. I can bring them up in the middle of an argument. I could be that guy.
Ask a reference librarian, because they know more than you do.
Librarians have also been really helpful in giving me advice into areas I wouldn't look into necessarily initially, that had a lot of applications in my field. So being able to say, what am I not thinking about? What would strengthen my research has also been really helpful. You can do it. It'll be amazing, and start early.